Hello! In this presentation, I will show you how to perform a comparison between two groups using the independent samples t-test. I advise you to work along with me on the SPSS database called Adolescence Behavior 3, which is attached to this course, and repeat all the procedures that I perform. I remind you that our sample consists of 2,252 adolescents. I will describe all the procedures that I will use, but I will not go deep into the statistical formulas. If you want to understand or to consolidate your basic statistical knowledge, I advise you to enroll in another course of mine from this platform called Introduction to Statistics for Non-Mathematicians. Let us begin. The objective of our analysis will be to find out if there are significant differences of self-esteem and well-being between adolescent males and females. Please remember that in one of the previous presentations, we computed the total score of self-esteem and well-being. First, I will select Analyze, Compare Means, and the Independent Samples t-test. As you can see in this window, in the left side, we have all the variables from our database, and on the right side, we have an area for the test variables, which in our case will be the self-esteem and the well-being, and also an area for grouping variable, which in our case will be gender. So I will introduce the total self-esteem and the total well-being in the test variables area, and I will introduce gender as grouping variable. As you can see, SPSS asks me to define the groups, which mean to introduce the codes for the groups that I want to compare. So I will click on Define Groups, and I will introduce the code 1 for the group of males, and the code 2 for the group of females, and I will click Continue and OK. Now, in the results section, you can see that the software generated two tables. The first one incorporates the main descriptive indicators of the groups. So, as far as the self-esteem is concerned, males have a mean of 30.3 and a standard deviation of 6.3. while females have a mean of 29.6 and a standard deviation of 5.8. Also, as far as the well-being is concerned, males have a mean of 16.1 and a standard deviation of 5.3, while females have a mean of 14.5 and a standard deviation of 5.5. So, these descriptive indicators suggest that males tend to have higher levels of self-esteem and well-being. Now, let's find out if these differences are statistically significant. And this information is presented in the second table. Now, please take into consideration the following principle. There are two versions of the t-test based upon the answer to the following question. Are the variances of our two groups equal? So, in order to know which version of the t-test we should apply, we have to test first the equality of the variances. And in the first two columns of this table, we have the results of the Levine test, which compare the variances of the groups. Let's begin with the self-esteem. The Levine test, which is actually an F value or an ANOVA test, is 0.35 and its level of significance is 0.55. As you remember from your basic statistical training, in order to have significant differences, this significance level or p-value should be lower than 0.05. So in our case, we don't have significant differences in variance, which means that we can assume equal variances. Consequently, in our table, we shall interpret the results of the t-test corresponding to equal variances. And the t-value is 2.12 with a level of significance of 0.03, which is smaller than 0.05, so we can conclude that the difference of self-esteem between males and females is statistically significant, the male adolescents having a higher level than the female adolescents. Now, let's interpret the results for well-being. First, the Levine test indicates that we can assume equal variances because its significance level is higher than 0.05 and the correspondent t-test with a value of 5.79 and the significance level or a p-value of 0.00, which indicates that the difference in well-being is also statistically significant, the p-value being smaller than 0.05. In other words, male adolescents have a higher level of well-being than female adolescents. As you can see, this second table includes several additional indicators, such as the mean difference, the standard error of the difference, and the confidence interval of the difference. But these are rather secondary as importance, so I will not provide further explanations about them. So, these were the main procedures involved in the comparison of two groups using the independent samples t-test. See you in the next presentation.